smiles at me. Why, my thoughts, they go roaming, roaming, way up there to paradise.
They are some of the best-known faces on Earth. They are the stars of the moving pictures of the 1930s, captured forever in still photographs. But the real star of this exhibition is the man who was behind the camera. His name was George Hurrell, and for those who know Hollywood, he is as much of a legend as any of the people he photographed.
George Hurrell shot practically everybody but King Kong. He shot Gable, Garbo, Crawford, Dietrich, Bogart.
Mark, I have my two favorites. There's no
Mark Vieira is the author of the book Hurrell's Hollywood Portraits. Photographer in his own right, Vieira once worked with George Hurrell.
He was able to come into a field that was soft, fuzzy, salon, Main Street portrait photography kind of look, and with his personal brand of dynamism and energy, he took soft, fuzzy pictures, made them sharp, crisp, bold, sexy. No one had done this before. So while he didn't invent the Hollywood glamour portrait, he did perfect it.
Yesterday's a dream that we have forgot. Tomorrow.
Hollywood photographers filled a real need. For the classic stars we see today on Turner Classic Movies and elsewhere, labored under a big technological handicap.
The close-up is invented by the movies, generally said to be
Vicki
by
Goldberg is a photography critic for the New York Times.
But when movies went to sound, the equipment was too bulky, and you couldn't zoom in on a face anymore. The close-up, for a while, lapsed out of movies. During that time, the photographers kept it alive. The photographers kept this kind of superhuman intimacy with people alive.
George Hurrell launched his career with this photograph of the actress Norma Shearer in 1929. She wanted the lead in the picture The Divorcee and hoped publicity shots by this young and little-known photographer could help her get it.
What Norma did was come over in her cream Rolls Royce with her entourage to a little studio off Wilshire Boulevard in the Westlake district of Los Angeles, and she posed for pictures that only a hungry starlet would do. She was very nervous. The way he relaxed her was to put this silly record on, When My Baby Smiles at Me, on the Victrola. Well, when the Victrola started to wind down, he's over at the camera, he started singing with it that same way, and it broke her up. She started laughing, and she realized, okay, I'm in good hands here. This guy seems out of control, but he knows what he's doing. And wonderful pictures resulted, and she got the part of the divorcee. She got an Academy Award, and he got the job of head photographer at MGM at age 25.
Once established, Hurrell went on to photograph the biggest matinee idols of his day. The images he produced were dazzling and shimmering and radiant with glamour.
When my baby, look at me, honey, smile at me, will you? Smile at me. That's it, and you know what? That's
Marlene Dietrich posed for him in a feathered cap that was blown by a blow dryer. With a full-length mirror in front of her, she called the shots.
She wanted to have all these pictures of herself. He said, I never knew a dame who was so hot for pictures of herself.
George Hurrell was also a leading photographer of leading men.
Hurrell was able to make these men relax so that they could be glamorized and yet not know that they were being glamorized. The masculinity was there, the power was there, but he didn't make them feel as if they're going through an artificial, unnatural process.
The picture of Gable is so interesting because it's quite an early picture. It's prior to the time he had a mustache. And he's made extraordinarily come hither for a man, I think very romantic, rather smoldering. Hurrell was perfectly capable of making men as glamorous as he made women.
They may be still photographs, but looking back on them now, they are evocatively moving pictures.
This was the way their fans were going to remember them. You can only remember so much of a movie, but you can hold that photograph in your hand, you can open the magazine to that page and leave it open on your couch all day and keep coming back and looking at it. So that was the way they stayed in memory. Now, we know what the icons of the 30s look like, and we do have an entire history here of what the look of glamour was.
Come on now, work yourselves into the emotion of such a scene. Don't be extras. Be a nation watching its manhood ride out on a great cause.
He was the very definition of a big-time Hollywood producer-director in the first half of the 20th century. Making more than 70 movies in a career that spanned 40 years, Cecil B. DeMille understood the magic of films. From intimate moments...
Who are you? What are you doing here?
I'll be here just as long as you need me.
...to huge extravaganzas.
Remember this day.
Literally employing casts of thousands, both on screen and behind the scenes.
He was kind of like a modern-day Medici. He surrounded himself with the people that he thought had great drama and great talent, and let them go.
Cecilia DeMille Presley is Cecil's granddaughter.
When did you begin to realize, oh my gosh, he's not just my nice grandfather, he's somebody?
When I was born.
In fact, at age 8, she announced to her parents that she was moving in with her grandmother Constance, a former actress, and the grandfather she adored.
He was delighted. As soon as I could dress myself, he never took a trip without me. I went everywhere with him. New York, Europe, everywhere. What a life.
And now she has co-authored a huge book on DeMille's career. There are storyboards he commissioned for each scene of a film.
These were from a picture called The Plainsman with Gary Cooper and Jean Arthur.
And there are sketches for costumes he approved, and gorgeous publicity stills he had shot, including these for the 1919 silent film Male and Female, complete with Gloria Swanson posing with a very reluctant lion.
Grandfather got mad, went down, grabbed the lion's paws and put them on her back and pointed at the lion and said, "Stay." And the lion did. And then he turned around and there was a man standing there who looked at him and said, "You son of a bitch," and walked off the set, and it was Gloria's father.
The showman who could tame lions, and everyone else on the film set, had a personal story worthy of one of his own films.
It seems like he was trying to make it as a writer and a producer in theater rather than film, and he wasn't very successful.
He'd been an actor too, even sung opera one time. Nothing seemed to stick, nothing seemed to work. He was, at age 33, he was just kind of this fifth wheel for everybody, and it was so sad.
Film historian Mark Vieira is co-author of the new book. He says that DeMille, living in New York, got a lucky break when two of his pals, Jesse Lasky and Sam Goldfish, who later became known as film mogul Samuel Goldwyn, wanted to go into the movie business. They gave DeMille a small share in their enterprise to head west and make a feature film called The Squaw Man.
For 1914, very racy, controversial material.
That's because it's the story of an English aristocrat who falls for a Native American woman. The Squaw Man was a huge hit and considered the first Hollywood feature-length film because DeMille shot the interior scenes in this building, now the Hollywood Heritage Museum.
When DeMille worked here, it was little more than a barn?
It was a barn with horses and a carriage.
DeMille didn't care. He put Hollywood on the map. The little film company he helped start would eventually morph into Paramount. And he began turning out scores of films. Along the way, making himself a major celebrity.
The bravado, the gusto, the power, the control of every aspect, every element. That was the image he created
that was going to be the Hollywood director, and it stuck.
An image DeMille cultivated.
Quiet, quiet, quiet. We're trying to take a scene here. You people chatter like a lot of monkeys.
Was there something that, if you looked at it, you knew it was a DeMille movie?
His characters had feelings that real people would have. The story had to be grounded in real emotions.
Though DeMille introduced new lighting and camera techniques, as in the Ten Commandments, the critics didn't always love his work. But the fans did. Still, in 1925, despite his years of success, Paramount fired Cecil B. DeMille.
He said, they kicked me out. He was very unhappy about this for the rest of his life.
He was down, but not out, making his own films as well as some for MGM. Then, as the era of talkies began, Paramount invited him back.
My friend and I are philosophers.
He's lying to Christians.
In 1932, DeMille released The Sign of the Cross.
I've seen you in my dreams.
Ostensibly religious, the film had a dance scene so sensual it provoked a call from Hollywood censor Will Hayes.
Will called him and said, "What are you going to do about that, Cecil?" And grandfather said, "Now listen to me very carefully, because you might want to repeat it. Not a damn thing."
The film is considered a masterpiece, and DeMille, who grew up on Bible stories, would frequently return to religious themes. His way. As in the 1949 blockbuster, Samson and Delilah.
There are too many lies between us. You still fear me more than you love me.
I don't fear you enough.
His vision of the Bible seemed to be kind of a very sexy vision of the Bible.
Was the Bible sexy?
Children of all ages.
But it was a film about the circus, the greatest show on earth, that in 1953 won DeMille his first Best Picture Academy Award. He also got an honorary Oscar in 1950 for his pioneering film work.
He had been so successful by that. Did it matter to get these?
Oh, yeah. I mean, to be recognized by your peers, you know, that's everything. He was very moved.
It's his next movie that may be his best remembered.
Stand still and see the...
His Technicolor version of the Ten Commandments, released in 1956 with Charlton Heston as Moses.
Behold his mighty hand.
Showcased pioneering special effects and has become an American classic. It was DeMille's last film. On location in Egypt, he suffered a heart attack. His health declined, and in 1959, his death made headlines around the world. He once said, "A man is no better than what he leaves behind." By that measure, Cecil B. DeMille was quite a man.
And now, a page from our Sunday Morning Almanac, July 31st, 1928, the day a famous movie actor found his voice. For that was the day audiences actually heard Leo, the MGM lion, roar for the first time. He'd started out a few years earlier as a silent lion for Goldwyn Pictures. When Goldwyn combined with Metro Pictures and Louis B. Mayer to form Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer in 1924, Leo became the merger mascot, as big in his own way as his studio's human stars. Greta Garbo may have wanted to be alone, but here she is side by side with Leo in this 1925 publicity shot. At least 5 different lions have played the part of Leo over the years, each with his own distinctive roar and hairstyle. Collectively, they introduced many of the most memorable films of Hollywood's heyday.
You're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
And the Leos were the target of some good-natured spoofing as well. From MGM's own animated Tom and Jerry cartoons to the credits for Mary Tyler Moore's TV production company, MTM. To Steve Martin's first Pink Panther movie. Not that every MGM film featured a real live lion. An artwork version opened a handful of films in the 1960s, including Stanley Kubrick's 2001, A Space Odyssey. Now, in 2011, after some financial hard times, MGM is looking to regain past glories, with Leo, as usual, making himself heard in his starring role.
We knew him on the big screen as the cowboy.
No, we don't.
The co-pilot.
Hold yourself, you yellow. Fall back.
The colonel.
Fall back. Keep moving.
But the private John Wayne stood just as tall as the characters he played.
Life with him was, at least for me, was an adventure.
Ethan Wayne is the little boy in these home movies, John Wayne's youngest son.
We didn't live in Hollywood. We lived at the beach. We didn't have bodyguards. You know, if we heard noise on the dock, we'd get guns and we'd walk outside and we'd say, "Who the hell's out there?"
John Wayne was, and 32 years after his death, still is one of this country's most popular actors. In a poll just this year of America's favorite movie stars, he ranked third after Johnny Depp and Denzel Washington.
John Wayne was not only the most important film star of the 20th century in America, he was actually one of the most important Americans of the 20th century.
John Powers is film critic for Vogue magazine.
You better start packing a handgun.
He defined an entire sense of manhood, authority.
Out here, a man settles his own problems.
And powerful control of self in the situation that people yearn to have protect them and yearn to be themselves.
Now, for the first time, those admiring fans have a chance to take a little piece of John Wayne's history home with them. Personal items his family has stored for decades will be sold at a public auction later this week in Los Angeles.
What compelled you to start selling your father's things?
I just thought it was natural to let some of this go out and live with people who will really appreciate it. Because I think in John Wayne's case, people have an emotional or a visceral connection with him.
There are letters from famous friends, scripts, and costumes. The outfit from McClintock, the cap from The High and the Mighty, an eye patch from True Grit, the 1969 film for which he won his Oscar.
I didn't think I was going to get excited about this thing, but you get all gooey.
At an auction preview in Dallas, fans still speak of Wayne with reverence.
Oh, I love John Wayne. Love him. I mean, just, I watch the movies. I can say the script before he does. I knew all the scripts.
He does do that. He finishes the lines.
Fill your hands.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch!
Ethan's brother, Patrick.
If you had told me 30 years ago that my father's celebrity and popularity would be as big as it is today, I would have said, you're crazy.
John Wayne's daughter, Marisa.
I wish I knew what the magic formula was, but you know, he was one of a kind.
Wayne often took his family on location, sometimes even got them roles in his films.
You were in a movie with your dad. How did that happen?
He came in, he said, "We're going to Mexico, you're going to be in this movie, you got to wear that outfit."
The film was Big Jake.
Run!
He'd say, "Now go over there, and you're scared because this guy's got a knife, he's going to come after you, so you be scared over there."
I'm scared.
So am I. But don't let them know it.
Born Marion Morrison and nicknamed Duke after his pet dog, John Wayne starred in nearly 200 movies. With his distinctive style, he came to embody the American hero.
Let's go home, Debbie.
In films like The Searchers, considered by many the greatest Western ever made.
John Wayne was actually a great screen actor. There's a way in which he just walks so beautifully that you love watching him do it. You know, he looks so comfortable carrying a gun, you just admire that. The way he takes charge in a situation is reassuring and beautiful and nice.
You're indestructible. Well, stick close to me and maybe a little of it'll rub off on you.
His characters were pretty uniform. Gruff, take charge, men of action, and simple values. His personal life was more complicated. 3 wives, health issues, saddled with financial troubles. And his patriotic values and conservative politics made him one of the most polarizing figures of his time. He was a hawk on Vietnam.
I think we should have won it about 4 years ago at about a quarter of the loss of men and had the respect of the world. Instead of that, we pussyfoot around, and now we're trying to get out of it without being a disgrace.
Wayne visited the war effort in Da Nang.
How are you? All right.
And the anti-war effort at Harvard University. He arrived there on a tank, but opted for the charm offensive.
You look at yourself as the fulfillment of the American dream?
I don't look at myself any more than I have to, friend.
But many today still look at Wayne as the very model of American manhood.
You can look at presidential candidates, they run as if they're John Wayne. For example, Governor Rick Perry from Texas. The way he carries himself, his whole style, is very much steeped in an idea of the cowboy that comes out of John Wayne.
Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, the Green Beret.
Got one of those in the auction.
Yes.
Wayne's family is selling only part of an enormous collection. Some things are just too precious to part with. The Presidential Medal of Freedom, the Congressional Gold Medal.
And it just says John Wayne American.
Yeah.
Nothing more needed to be said, somehow?
Nope, I think he'd be very happy with that.
Ethan was 17 when John Wayne died of cancer at 72.
You drove him to the hospital, is that right?
Yeah, he came in one night and he wasn't feeling well, and he said, come on, boy, you got to drive me to the hospital. I don't think it ever registered to me that he wouldn't come out. He came out of everything.
When Ethan Wayne lost his father, millions of Americans lost their hero.
Well, come to see a fat old man sometime. Yeah!
But John Wayne seems not to have lost his power to inspire.
I'm out of the studio and out on the street. Or am I? Backdrops like this one have long played a role in the movies, as you're about to see in what we're calling a background report from John Blackstone.
They're just paint and canvas. But in Hollywood's golden age, painted backdrops played a vital role in the magic of movies.
I just met a girl named Marie.
Creating cities, sunsets, or anything else that a director could imagine.
You could see the bricks and how they're laid.
And art instructor Karen Manus appreciates every brushstroke.
The backdrop is part of extending the world of the set. Oftentimes it was just seen outside windows.
Did I hear you say that you were a writer?
But sometimes it even included the entire world of a set on a soundstage and creating that environment.
Take The Wizard of Oz.
You open up into that first view of Oz to see that entire space shaped by paintings.
Manus is co-author of The Art of the Hollywood Backdrop. Art, she says, that has often gone unappreciated. Impressive, but
designed to be invisible.
Why write a book about it?
Because they're some of the largest paintings ever created by exceptionally skilled artists. Never recognized, never credited, and part of what makes these films extraordinary.
Many people may have paintings at home on the wall that family members have done.
I have a bunch.
Really big ones. Lynn Coakley's great-grandfather was a scenic artist for MGM in the 1930s. Her grandfather and father followed him into the business. Their backdrops, or backings as they're called in the industry, gave luster to movies like The Sound of Music. They painted recreations of on-location settings that were sometimes just seen through doors and windows on a soundstage.
Both my grandfather and my father painted this backing along with 7 other ones that were used around the gazebo, at the convent.
What makes this look so realistic?
The textures, the details, you've got the correct perspective. It's just a really beautifully painted backing.
In 1962, her family founded the J.C. Backings Corporation to paint and supply backdrops for movies and TV shows. They bought hundreds of backdrops from MGM, 20th Century Fox, and Disney.
A lot of the studios in the 70s and the 80s just were getting rid of all of their backdrops. They just didn't want to have it anymore.
One prized acquisition, the famous Mount Rushmore backdrop from North by Northwest. From down here, we can believe we're looking up at that mountain, at those heads.
You want to climb it?
Their backdrop from the 1959 movie Ben-Hur features a vista of ancient Rome.
Will Rome see you again?
And in 2015, it was seen again in the Coen brothers movie, Hail Caesar.
Backings are not happy when they're rolled up in a dark little spot down below in a storage warehouse.
Then this backdrop must be awfully content. It first appeared in the 1949 film The Fountainhead. Then it provided a view of New York City on the Jeffersons.
Oh, you shouldn't have, but I'm glad you did.
Until it wore out and was repainted.
And already has rented over 30 times, and to different TV shows like Felicity, the original Roseanne, The Practice.
Lynn Coakley, who is now president of J.C. Backing, says that painted backdrops still make up about 1/3 of the company's rentals.
And this is a backlit photo backing.
With new technology, J.C. Backings also creates photo and vinyl backdrops that can be dazzling.
And voila, you have night.
If done well, a painted backdrop and a photographic backdrop should make no difference.
Production designer Tom Walsh uses photographic backdrops on the set of the Fox TV series Deputy.
This is looking east from the Hall of Justice building.
But the old ways remain his first choice.
I still prefer to always use a painted backdrop whenever possible because I think they light better. And you can interpret the reality as opposed to just take a photograph, and what the photograph is what you get.
You know, as the industry itself is changing and the way they make movies changes, there is this feeling that we need to start thinking about preserving the old things.
Mary McNamara, culture columnist for the Los Angeles Times, first wrote about efforts to save old hand-painted backdrops that often were just thrown away.
What's lost when a lot of these artifacts disappear?
Well, the tangible history of Hollywood, and also some of these things are works of art in themselves.
Even Lynn Coakley had more painted backdrops than she needed when the company moved to new quarters.
I had some backings I really didn't need to move. They had never rented, or they're so specific.
Coakley told Tom Walsh about her dilemma.
And so I said, well, you know, these are to be preserved. And then, of course, opening my big fat mouth, I realized, all right, how are you going to follow up on that?
So Walsh created the Backdrop Recovery Project. With the help of Manus and Coakley, they cataloged more than 200 backdrops.
We didn't know what we were going to get every time we opened up a backdrop. We weren't quite sure what it would be.
There was an old vaudeville oleo drop, and no one knew what it was from, really. And we opened it up, and I went, I've seen that drop.
It was from the classic musical, Singin' in the Rain.
It was like seeing an old friend, exhilarating.
Other backdrops were from a different orbit, like this one from Forbidden Planet.
Look at the color of that sky. Yeah, but I'll still take blue.
And then it was my job to go around the world and, hey, you want a little 90-foot wide piece of art for your wall? But lo and behold, it worked.
Some went to museums, some to institutions like the University of Texas at Austin, where Karen Manus uses them to inspire her students.
Come on over. It's thrilling to see my students learning from these ghosts.
Walsh is still looking for homes for some 60 backdrops, but he's pleased with their progress.
They're finding a new life. There's a life after death for the art of Hollywood.
Cucaracha, look at that one. She looks better all wrapped up than the rest of them do unwrapped.
Her looks were so stunning that she was dubbed the most beautiful woman in the world. Smoldering sensuality with an exotic accent to match.
If I can't see Paris when I open my eyes in the morning, I want to go right back to sleep.
Even her name, Hedy Lamarr, sounded dark and mysterious. But although she shared the screen with Hollywood legends like Clark Gable...
Goodbye, stranger.
Okay, stranger.
Spencer Tracy...
Georgie, well, you're not going to sit in that hotel room all alone, are you? Why don't you go to a movie?
They've all got happy endings.
Even Jimmy Stewart.
Well, I guess that takes care of the formalities.
People rarely remember Hedy's talent. Most remember only that face.
The boys abroad during the Second World War voted her the most desirable pinup that they could possibly see. So she had a great deal of fame and fortune, but not that inner satisfaction that she wanted in life.
Richard Rhodes is best known for his Pulitzer Prize-winning work on the making of the atomic bomb. But turns out his most recent book about Hedy Lamarr is just as explosive. So what got a science writer interested in a half-forgotten celebrity? Well, quite simply, these.
Is this the actual patent? These are two of the drawings from the patent, yeah.
This was Hedy's other side, the intellectual side. And had it turned out, might have been the blueprint for success far beyond Hollywood.
What was the one thing that surprised you the most, you think, during the course of putting this together?
The sheer inventiveness of the invention.
That invention, this maze of wires and switches, is Hedy's idea for a secret communication system, specifically one that could guide a torpedo using technology called frequency hopping, so that signal couldn't be intercepted.
The first question is, what? A Hollywood star? What was she doing inventing some piece of electrical engineering?
I mean, this wasn't the ShamWow. This was like a pretty sophisticated thing.
It was.
Have you ever seen eyes like that? So full of love for you?
Her life reads like a Hollywood script. The glamorous movie star by day was by night the lonely immigrant, channeling her inner Thomas Edison.
She set aside one room in her home, had a drafting table installed with the proper lighting and the proper tools, had a whole wall in the room of engineering reference books, and invented.
It was a hobby that remained obscured in the shadow of her celebrity, one she rarely revealed, even to her own son.
She was such a creative person. I mean, non-stop solution finding. If you talked about a problem, she had a solution. And I'm sure Hedy was doing it with him.
Looking back, Anthony Loder, the product of the third of Hedy's 6 marriages, says his mother's tinkering just may have been an escape.
She wanted to stop all the Hollywood stuff, which she didn't really enjoy.
Most of Hedy's inventions, including a better Kleenex box and a different kind of traffic signal, never really went anywhere. But her idea for that radio-controlled torpedo got a patent. It was 1940. German U-boats were wreaking havoc in the Atlantic, torpedoing ships, very often with women and children aboard, trying to flee the Nazis, something Hedy knew a little about. Born Hedwig Kiesler to Jewish parents in Austria, Hedy had married a wealthy arms manufacturer named Fritz Mandl. She spent many an evening absorbing his musings of top-secret weapon systems. But with both the war and the Nazis approaching, Hedy decided to flee her homeland and her marriage, and booked passage to Hollywood aboard the Normandy, a ship she knew was carrying a very famous passenger, movie mogul Louis B. Mayer. She was already a name in the industry. Hedy had become infamous for her racy performance in the foreign film Ecstasy. Not only was she nude, but this close-up of Hedy's face in the precise moment of rapture, as one critic tastefully put it, was considered nothing short of pornography. But Louis B. Mayer liked what he saw.
By the end of the voyage, she had arranged with him a contract of $600 a week, which would be $3,000 today, with the proviso that she learn English, which she pretty quickly did.
Temper, temper. You don't want to get lines under those beautiful eyes.
You fool! Her career took off, but the war in Europe was never far from her mind. And a chance dinner party with a Hollywood composer named George Antheil changed everything. Like her, Antheil tinkered with ideas. He was famous for composing an avant-garde symphony using unconventional instruments, not the least of which were more than a dozen player pianos, all synchronized.
And that gave the two of them an idea. If pianos could be synchronized to hop from one note to another, then why couldn't radio frequencies that were steering a torpedo hop as well?
Hedy's idea was if you could make both the transmitter and the receiver simultaneously jump from frequency to frequency, then someone trying to jam the signal wouldn't know where it was.
This was a viable idea. This would have worked.
Indeed, it would have worked.
So what happened?
When the Navy brass looked at the invention, they said, "What, you want to put a player piano in a torpedo? That won't work."
So they weren't impressed at all.
So they threw it on the back shelf. The Navy's response really was, you should go raise money for the war. That's what you should be doing instead of this silly inventing.
What about it, Hedy?
So Hedy did precisely that, using her celebrity to raise millions in war bonds, dismissed again for her brains in favor of her beauty.
I think we all know. Girl in the world. Hedy Lamarr.
Hedy Lamarr, right.
As time went on, she tried television, but it never really fit, and her star slowly faded. But she watched in silence as other frequency-hopping inventors took the technology to heights Hedy never could have imagined.
Today, frequency hopping is used with the wireless phones that we have in our homes, GPS, most military communications. It's very widely used.
But Hedy had quietly signed her patent over to the Navy and just left it at that.
I mean, she gave the technology away. It seemed to her the very...
Never made a dime off it.
No. It seemed to her the very least they could do was pat her on the head and give her some acknowledgement.
More than 50 years after her original patent, Hedy did, finally, get some acknowledgement, even a few awards. But she didn't show up to accept them. By then, botched plastic surgery had left her mostly a recluse.
She lost her looks, she lost her confidence, she lost her value, she lost her worth.
Hedy Lamarr died alone in Florida at the age of 86. Her obituaries began with what everyone already knew, her beauty, but generally made only glancing references to that invention, the one she hoped would have showed the world that her mind was beautiful too.
And now, a page from our Sunday Morning Almanac. May 10th, 1977. The occasion for a cautionary Mother's Day tale. For that was the day actress Joan Crawford died of a heart attack in New York City. Born Lucille LeSueur in San Antonio, Texas, she got into show business as a dancer, and by the 1930s had become one of Hollywood's top actresses.
Oh, you're a little stenographer.
Yes, I'm a little stenographer.
I don't suppose you'd take some dictation from me sometime, would you?
Crawford won her only Oscar for her starring role in the 1945 film Mildred Pierce, playing a successful restaurateur in a troubled relationship with her daughter, played by Anne Blythe.
Get out, Vita. Get your things out of this house right now before I throw them into the street and you with them.
But it was Joan Crawford's real-life relationship with her adopted daughter, Christina, that was fated to create lasting controversy. In a book titled Mommie, Dearest, published the year after Joan Crawford's death, Christina accused her mother of years of physical and psychological abuse. That posthumous indictment became a movie in 1981 with Faye Dunaway in the leading role.
No more hangers!
On the other side of the ledger, many of Joan Crawford's friends and colleagues strongly defended her against Christina's accusations.
Are you frightened that you would turn into Joan Crawford? No.
And in a 1988 CBS interview, Christina Crawford put her relationship with her mother in a better light, laying much of the blame for the abuse she suffered on the treatment her mother had received when she was a girl.
Most of the years that I was an adult, I tried to get her help. And in fact, in one show years and years ago, she said that I had become her best friend. And indeed, I was, because I understood her.
We cannot presume to know the truth about Joan and Christina Crawford. What we are pretty certain of is that for most mothers and their children, today will be the happiest of days.
Actor and director Orson Welles is widely acclaimed as the creator of the 1941 film classic Citizen Kane. But another, less celebrated man deserves his due as well. His cause is a family affair for our man in Hollywood, Ben Mankiewicz.
It is arguably the most famous word ever spoken on film. And it comes from what many consider the greatest movie ever made. Citizen Kane, Orson Welles' 1941 masterpiece on the rise and fall of Charles Foster Kane.
I made no campaign promises.
A ruthless capitalist, mostly based on newspaper tycoon William Randolph Hearst.
I felt like a kid in front of a candy store. Well, tonight, 6 years later, I got my candy. All of it. Welcome, gentlemen, to the Inquirer.
With its deep focus camera work and bold lighting techniques that use shadows to direct the audience's attention, Citizen Kane is a cinematic landmark. So it's only fitting that the story behind it is equally compelling. And that's the story director David Fincher tells in his new Netflix film. I spoke to Fincher on Stage 19 at Paramount Studios. It's where Welles made Citizen Kane 80 years ago.
When you look at a movie that is cohesive, as Kane was, from the authorship standpoint, it fires on all cylinders.
Fincher's film is called Mank.
Make yourself to home, Mr. Mankiewicz, or shall I call you Herman?
Please, call me Mank. Mank.
Mank. Mank.
Mank. Oscar winner Gary Oldman stars as Herman Mankiewicz, who Welles hired to write the screenplay for Kane.
Mank, it's Orson Welles.
Of course it is. Full disclosure, Herman Mankiewicz was my grandfather. For all that I know and all that my father knew about his dad, you captured Herman completely authentic.
Well, that's a great thing to hear.
Fincher's resume includes Fight Club.
Did you kill your wife, Nick?
Gone Girl.
This idea is potentially worth millions of dollars.
Millions! And The Social Network. So a black and white period piece about someone most people have never heard of seems a curious choice. What was the pull of late 30s, early 40s Hollywood?
It wasn't. It was the character. It was the guy. It was the notion of someone struggling with great ability and personal troubles, and his pushing a rock up a hill in gravel.
My grandfather was definitely a character. Everybody called him Mank. Talented and tormented, he was the smartest and wittiest guy in the room, also the drunkest. His career was at a low point when he met Orson Welles, who was soaring.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's.
3 years before Kane, Welles's radio broadcast of War of the Worlds scared thousands into believing Martians had invaded New Jersey.
Strike them head on. Lord, they're turning the plane.
Welles was a genius, and he knew it. So did Hollywood. At just 24, Welles was given carte blanche to make any movie he wanted. So he went to my grandfather, who had an idea. Take on the original media mogul, William Randolph Hearst. Herman had been to parties thrown by Hearst, bearing witness to the wild excesses.
What's interesting to me is the notion of a guy who had overheard a lot of things and had a really specific understanding of the world that he was pulling the curtain back from.
If I may be so bold, why Hearst? Are you going to say anything? You pick a fight with Willie, you are finished.
In Citizen Kane, Herman Mankiewicz revealed how men like Hearst used their power to manipulate people and crush dissent.
Really, Charles? People will think
what I tell them to think.
Fincher recreated Hearst Castle by blending vintage photographs with digital effects.
There's a great shot of Gary Oldman as my grandfather coming out, looking for Marion.
It was a set about as big as, it was like 20 by 20 foot, just the doorway, and then the rest of it's matte paintings. Quite honestly, exactly the way Wells would have done it.
Nobody makes a monkey out of William Randolph Hearst.
That's a scene with Mank and Marion Davies, a movie star who everybody knew was Hearst's mistress. She's played by Amanda Seyfried.
It's amazing. It really reconnects me to this story.
We spoke to her outside the Manhattan mansion Hearst bought for Davies.
I think the perception was that she was just not that bright, a comedienne, really a very flighty young woman. She was actually so much smarter than people gave her credit for.
when one is dancing in a Broadway hit, one gets so tired of dancing.
You didn't get so tired when you danced over me all night.
That's because I dance on my toes now. I was dancing on a heel then.
Much more talented, very self-assured. She's someone I would have gotten along with really well.
For Amanda Seyfried, who has starred in Mean Girls and Mamma Mia, a black and white film set during Hollywood's golden age was a welcome change of pace.
It's a really great way to just go back in time and experience an era that we weren't a part of.
The debate over who wrote Citizen Kane has been raging for decades. My grandfather wrote a long first draft. Wells condensed it. They shared the film's only Academy Award, the Oscar for Best Screenplay. But it's not the credit that matters to Fincher. It's the collaboration.
I was interested in watching how these extremely different personalities collided with one another for one moment in time and made something that we still talk about today.
Mank. Mr. Mankiewicz.
While my link to Fincher's film is obvious, there is also another family connection. You're watching the titles of this movie, a screenplay by, what's it say?
Jack Fincher.
Jack Fincher was David Fincher's father.
He was a journalist most of his life, which is why his assessment of the only good movies are written by and or about journalists. I was sort of indoctrinated with that from a very early age.
David Fincher is not given to sentimentality, but it was clearly special for him to finish what his dad started 25 years ago.
I wish he could have seen it get made before, 9 months of chemo, but it didn't happen.
Jack Fincher died in 2003.
And we're left with this, and it is nice to come full circle.
There's a circle completed for me, too. I love seeing my grandfather's name on Citizen Kane, but I never knew him. He died in 1953, long before I was born.
You're not going to like this, Orson.
But through Fincher and Gary Oldman,
I want credit.
I feel like I'm getting a little taste of the real Herman Mankiewicz. My father would have been very, very pleased to see that you created his dad as someone that just about everybody would have wanted to be around.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a mensch.
If you've ever seen an Alfred Hitchcock movie, then you've probably seen the man himself. The legendary director was almost as famous for appearing in his films as he was for making them. Today, nearly 3 decades after his death, he's not just a recognizable face, he is an icon.
I see him as a genius.
Actress Eva Marie Saint starred in Hitchcock's 1959 classic, North by Northwest.
There are just some people that cannot be copied because they're unique. They're like a wonderful gem. He'll always be remembered because almost every movie was a piece of art.
Hitchcock's art spans 6 decades and more than 60 films.
Hey, you! Don't drop that match!
From suspense
You know as well as I do, this necklace is imitation.
to romance
Well, I'm
to comedy. The themes varied, but the movies all began the same way, with Hitchcock's meticulous preparation.
I have worked with many directors since, and no one was ever prepared the way he was. He had a storyboard, and here are all our images in these little pieces of cardboard with little sketches on them. And they say that when they finished the film and it was to be edited, there was very little work to do.
I do think he set the bar very high.
For Professor Jack Sullivan, Hitchcock is both an obsession and a profession.
And 39 Steps is one of the most exuberant Hitchcocks. And
he teaches a course on the director at Rider University in New Jersey, and he's written a book on him too. He says Hitchcock was a master at tapping into the psychology of his characters.
Well, Hitchcock always had the camera inside people's heads.
How am I doing?
Not bad.
The driving scene in Notorious with Ingrid Bergman and Cary Grant, the drunk driving scene, she sees it for a moment blurred because there's hair in front of her eyes.
This frog gets me.
That's your hair in your eyes.
Huh.
You see that. So I think what Hitchcock is about the vulnerability and flawed nature of human beings, and I think even his heroes are that way.
Heroes like this one, Jimmy Stewart's character in Vertigo. In the film, which marks its 50th anniversary this year, Stewart plays a detective afraid of heights who becomes obsessed with the woman he's been hired to follow.
With Jimmy Stewart, who's Mr. Ordinary, nice guy, he's depicted as somebody who's afflicted with doubts and phobias.
It's a complete masterpiece, is Vertigo. It's just absolutely staggering movie.
Director John Carpenter, whose 1978 film Halloween is itself a classic, says there's good reason why Vertigo is now ranked the top mystery movie of all time by the American Film Institute.
What makes Vertigo for you such a, as you say, staggering film?
It's putting you in the middle of this incredibly dark nightmare from which you can't awaken. It's this tragic love story, and it has one of the darkest endings in movie history.
The dark ending was originally not well received. The film got mixed reviews, and moviegoers stayed home.
I heard voices.
Nobody wanted to see poor Jimmy Stewart be dragged to an asylum, and nobody wanted to see Kim Novak, the love of his life, die twice. It was much too dark for the 50s.
Too dark for the 50s, maybe, but Sullivan says those very same human themes now make Vertigo a timeless classic.
It's all about people's vulnerabilities and anxieties. I think that's really what Hitchcock is about, and I think that makes him not ever dated.
A shop owner's son born in London, Hitchcock spent a lot of time alone, studying movies and their characters. The first thriller he directed, this 1927 silent film, The Lodger, already showed his keen sense of psychology. Then 27, Hitchcock was a hit. More than a decade and some 20 movies later, he moved to Hollywood, where he created an entire genre.
1960 marked the turning point in horror with Psycho. Psycho is the first modern American horror film. And of course, the shower scene is emblematic. And that's probably the first slasher scene. ever.
But in a 1973 CBS News interview, Hitchcock suggested that horror for him was actually a laughing matter.
You couldn't make a picture like Psycho without a sense of humor. Because one knows ahead of time that you're going to put the audience through the ringer, which is an amusing thought.
If Hitchcock enjoyed putting his audience through the ringer, he also loved putting his so-called Hitchcock blondes in the middle of the mayhem, from Kim Novak to Doris Day to Grace Kelly.
You like blondes. Nothing wrong with that. Some men do. My husband does, by the way.
Eva Marie Saint was the Hitchcock blonde in North by Northwest, where she played what she calls a sexy spy lady.
Do you remember shooting that scene on that train with Cary Grant?
Oh, yes, yes.
I'm a big girl.
Yeah, and in all the right places, too.
I remember it's very sexy and so forth and kissing, but what was I thinking? I didn't want to step on his toes. That's what I was thinking. Oh, the kissing was wonderful. 2.
What does it mean to be a Hitchcock blonde?
Everything good. You can't get any better than that.
Tippi Hedren starred in the 1963 horror film The Birds.
Do you think Hitchcock had a weakness for blondes?
Oh, most men do.
Hedren was a professional model whom Hitchcock discovered in a television commercial. He offered her the chance of a lifetime.
And Hitch placed a very, very beautifully wrapped package from Gump's in San Francisco, and this pin was in it. And Alfred Hitchcock looked very pleased with himself.
What was the significance of the
Yeah, it's three birds in flight.
That's great.
So we want you to play Melanie Daniels in The Birds.
While Hitchcock liked blondes in his movies, in real life he cast a redhead as his wife. He married Alma Revel, his assistant director, in 1926. They had a daughter and were still together when he died 54 years later in 1980.
He loved holding court. He loved telling stories. He was very fond of dirty limericks. In fact, he wouldn't even go to an event unless he was the one being honored.
He was a wonderful character. I mean, he had his bacon flown in from Denmark, but I was so young then, or naive. I thought I was so impressed with that more than anything, more than his films.
Beyond the personal memories, a collective one. Hitchcock as a legend.
It's very difficult to master anything. You can do it, you can dabble in it, but to be a master is incredible, and there's nobody like him again.
Here's looking at you, Casablanca, the classic World War II era tale of love and anti-Nazi intrigue, premiered 75 years ago this month. And as Manuel Bojorquez tells us, its biggest fans are already celebrating.
In Florida last month, they rounded up 500 of the usual suspects for the Humphrey Bogart Film Festival. Fedoras were definitely in fashion. It was a reunion of sorts, an emotional reconnection with an old friend that happens to be a film. Danny Darcy first saw Casablanca when he was 8, and yes, it was the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Kiss me. Kiss me as if it were the last time.
Oh, it's so moving. So much passion in that film.
It moves you.
It moves me.
I'm mingling.
The host of the festival is none other than Stephen Humphrey Bogart, the only son of Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall.
My father, of course, died when he was very young, but, you know, he made a lot of movies that have stood the test of time.
We sat down with the offspring of that star-studded cast. Along with Bogart was Monica Henreid, daughter of Paul Henreid, who played resistance leader Victor Laszlo. and Jessica Raines, the daughter of Claude Rains, the rakish Captain Renault.
So what is it about this movie that makes it such a classic?
Luck.
Luck?
Yeah. Well, I don't think the studio had any idea of what they were doing. It was a propaganda film. It was another, they were grinding these things out.
It is one of those magical miracles that it all came together the way it did.
It's still a story without an ending.
As shooting began, the script was in disarray, literally being written on the fly. Yet somehow, the writers banged out some of the most quoted lines in Hollywood history.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine.
I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
You're winning, sir.
Oh, thank you very much.
He's looking at you, kid.
Fortune did smile on the casting department. Warner Brothers had a deep roster of immigrant actors, many of whom weren't just playing war-torn refugees, they were war-torn refugees. Film professor Noah Eisenberg wrote the book, We'll Always Have Casablanca.
It's a very, very extensive cast, but of the 75 members, nearly all of them were foreign-born, and of the 14 credited cast members, only 3 were American.
Consider this pivotal scene, the dueling anthems, where resistance leader Laszlo rallies French patriots to drown out the Germans. Actor Conrad Veidt fled Germany in 1933, and young actress Madeleine LeBeau, who escaped Paris ahead of the German invasion on a forged visa. Those tears are very, very real. And like his character, Austrian-born Paul Henreid was once on Hitler's enemies list.
When I see those scenes, I don't see Victor Laszlo. I see my father, because that's who my father was.
That was natural to him.
That was natural to him. It had happened.
Casablanca's score, performed live last month by the Iowa Symphony Orchestra, was Oscar-nominated.
You must remember this, a kiss is just a kiss.
But composer Max Steiner hated its signature song as time goes by, and was planning to reshoot key scenes with a different song he had written. But by the time he got around to it, well, time had gone by.
Ingrid Bergman had already been cast as Maria, and For Whom the Bell Tolls. She'd already had her hair cut short.
Couldn't reshoot it.
They couldn't do any retakes at that point.
Oh, and that very last line, perhaps the greatest last line in movie history, nearly didn't make it. Bogey dubbed it in after filming was finished. Like for so many fans, it's Steven Bogart's favorite.
It was funny, and I just thought that it was the perfect ending to this perfect movie.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Here's a trivia question. Who or what did director John Ford make a star as a result of his 1939 movie Stagecoach?
Hold it! Whoa, steady, ho.
If you said John Wayne, you'd be correct. He definitely was B-list before then. But there's another answer. Want a hint? I said who or what. I'm talking about the place. Monument Valley, 92,000 acres filled with colossal sandstone formations, straddling the Arizona-Utah state line. Iconic thanks to John Ford and the 9 films he made here.
There are certain places in the world that seem like special effects. They don't seem real. They seem too perfect. And the first time you come here, you see it through John Ford's eyes.
Film historian Scott Eyman has written a biography of Ford and one of John Wayne out in April.
The American settlers never came here. This was Navajo territory. But as a metaphor for the American conquest of space and of the continent, this is the American West.
This spot is now known as John Ford's Point.
So, in the climax of The Searchers, near the climax of The Searchers, the Indian village is down below, over there in the wash. John Wayne and Ward Bond and the rest of his men sneak up here to reconnoiter. In a Western, the landscape is a character. You might make the statement that in a Western, the landscape's the most important character. And in a Ford Western, Monument Valley coexists with John Wayne.
So how did John Ford find his way here? The story goes that in 1938, Harry Goulding and his wife Leona, known to all as Mike, drove to Hollywood with a portfolio of photographs. That Harry talked his way in to see Ford, showed him the pictures, and convinced him to make Stagecoach in Monument Valley, where the Gouldings ran a trading post.
This was actually Mike Goulding's potato cellar. It was just a rough structure that they built to store food. And Ford thought, well, why build a set for John Wayne's office? Let's just use this. And she wore a yellow ribbon. And there's several scenes in the film where he comes charging out of the front door and walks down there to start his day.
Well, carry on.
To make a film here, John Ford had to haul in an entire tent city to accommodate cast and crew. He hired the Navajo who lived around Monument Valley to play Apaches and Comanches, and famously paid this tribal medicine man to intervene with the gods to order up whatever weather Ford wanted for his shoots. Larry Holiday is the great-great-grandson of that medicine man. Movie buffs may call Monument Valley Ford Country or God's studio, but for the Navajo, it is a sacred place.
Monument Valley, it's like heaven on earth. It cleans you.
Cleans you, really?
That's the way I feel.
What's the word for Monument Valley in Navajo?
Se Biintiskre.
His translation, the sands that light up the valley. A park within the Navajo Nation. There's a rough, unpaved road through Monument Valley. This will give you an idea how big the buttes are. They have names like the Three Sisters, the Totem Pole, the Mittens. A few families still live here, but there's no electricity or running water. So life is hard. Helen Salazar is 78 and speaks almost no English. She makes her living demonstrating traditional Navajo ways and selling the rugs she weaves to tourists, some of whom undoubtedly look out the door of her hogan and see the opening shots of the searchers. It is largely because of the movies, according to park officials, that more than 450,000 visitors come to Monument Valley every year. At least 70% of them from outside the United States. Its starring role didn't end when John Ford stopped coming here.
Right where we're sitting, this is where they done the Back to the Future.
Half the fun of coming to Monument Valley is trying to match up shots. The landscape with Forrest Gump and without him. The serenity of the desert, wrecked by Chevy Chase in National Lampoon's Vacation.
This is no way to run a desert!
Since John Ford's day, this landscape has made an appearance in nearly 24 films.
All right. Let's do this.
When you see Monument Valley in a movie, how do you feel?
Hey, that's home.
Epic westerns have gone out of style, but Monument Valley hasn't. As they say, the camera loves it. So why not borrow its grandeur.
To catch the latest rising star, you can't look up. You have to look down to a famous Hollywood sidewalk. And our Bill Geist is delighted to tell you about it.
Ah, that sweet sound of jackhammer. I'd never really appreciated it before, but it was music to my ears here on Hollywood Boulevard last week as they made way for a new star on the Walk of Fame. Who could it be?
Give me a hint.
Well, this year they've installed stars for Penelope Cruz, Adam Sandler, Colin Firth, and Alec Baldwin. Each one takes about 3 days. I think you're going to be surprised by this new star. Very. I know I certainly was.
Bill Gates. Bill Gates.
Bill Geist.
Bill Geist. Okay.
You may be wondering, how could this happen? How could I get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame? Next to Jane Russell, a few steps from Spencer Tracy, across the street from Jack Nicholson, titans of the entertainment industry.
Now here's Gene Autry.
Well, a few years ago, I was doing a snide little piece needling the late Johnny Grant, the godfather of the Walk of Fame and honorary mayor of Hollywood.
Miss Winona Ryder.
He's the one you always saw kneeling next to the stars at the unveiling. I told Johnny that lately it seemed like some lesser lights were receiving stars. It seems like in the old days, it just used to be like Clark Gable and Gregory Peck and Marlon Brando.
Well, there are no Clark Gables, there are no Marlon Brandos, and no Gregory Pecks around today.
Purely in jest, I filled out an application. I'd just like to apply for a star on the Walk of Fame.
Sure. This is the application.
Oh. I sought some advice from a big star of Hollywood's golden era. Someone who's had her star for more than half a century. Lassie. It's Lassie. Lassie made her first film in 1943. That's 476 dog years ago. Nice to meet you. A remarkable career. Can you put me in touch with any of your people? Maybe help me get the star? Yes.
Here goes some gum right here.
Right here?
Yes.
There was a community service component to the application, and at Lassie's suggestion, I scraped gum off the Walk of Fame. Gum on Chad Everett's star. God, people have no respect. Whoa, that's a tough one. Damn kids. Weeks later, I was shocked to receive official notification that I'd been voted a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It turned out Johnny Grant was a big fan. My star ceremony was Friday.
Oh, Lassie's here. Yeah. Awesome.
Lassie was there, along with lots of friends.
You look so handsome.
Fans, a horde of photographers and camera crews, matched only by the gaggle of my family members from all over the country and all over the fashion spectrum. It's good to be a star. But my grandchildren, Lucy and George, were the real stars. That's crazy. CBS executive Gil Schwartz made me feel that I actually might be qualified for this honor.
George Burns, Mary Tyler Moore, Bob Newhart, Dick Van Dyke, Mike Wallace, Edward R. Murrow. And now to that list we add today's man of honor.
There were brief remarks from Lassie. One bark is a yes, two a no.
Are you here to celebrate Bill Geist's star?
I was presented with a plaque, a resolution, and pumpkin bread. I feel like I'm on The Price is Right.
Yeah.
Nothing was too good for the star.
Ladies and gentlemen, we proudly welcome to the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Bill Geist.
Mine was the 2,437th star unveiled on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. One of the original inductees made me feel like I belonged.
For more than 50 years, Stephen Stone has been going to the movies in Portland. You could even say he lives at the movies. That's because Stone has brought a part of Hollywood home with him, seat by seat, piece by piece, right into his basement.
And here we go down some nice plush carpet. Just feel that nice softness.
Out of a theater?
Yes, yes.
Ever since he started working in this city's Orpheum Theater, he has been salvaging remnants from an era largely thrown away or torn down.
Original stage phones.
Who would you talk to with that?
Hello, Mr. Projectionist. Let's start the movie.
Stone's collection assures him a permanent seat in his own epic hometown story.
It's about 1915 that Portland had the largest number of theaters ever. Then there were different themes like the Oriental and the Egyptian and the Venetian, all these far away, very interesting places that you'd like to visit.
But the glory could not last forever. By the 70s and 80s, most of the downtown movie palaces were destroyed by the wrecking ball. But the neighborhood theaters? Now that's a different story. Richard Beer helped save the Hollywood Theater, one of Portland's most famous landmarks about 3 miles from downtown.
This is one of the very rare occasions, and we believe the only time that it's ever happened in the United States, where the neighborhood was actually named after the theater instead of vice versa. It was pre-radio, very far pre-television. The facade and the marquee were the calling cards for the theater. That's what would get you in.
And the well-known Northwest rain outside ensured a captive audience. At one point, Portland had more movie theaters per capita than any other city in the country. And it didn't hurt that it was just up the coast from the real Hollywood.
Portland was close enough to LA to do a lot of tests and to kind of see if it was going to fly. The old, will it play in Peoria type of a thing.
Will it play in Portland?
Will it play in Portland?
Portlanders will tell you they're good at trying new things, especially when applying it to something old. Just ask Oregon's Bruise brothers, Brian and Mike McMenamin.
A couple of small ones, please. Thanks.
With a little beer and a lot of historic architecture, the brothers McMenamin have brought the glory of going to the movies back to Portland.
Well, I think it kind of started as a novelty because nobody else was doing it.
They called their experiment the Theater Pub, and in 1991, they decided to try it out at the Baghdad. First opened in 1927, what the brothers discovered was a faded but exquisite opportunity.
Original? Oh, they're original. And we're very lucky because a lot of the old theaters have had the fixtures cleaned out, you know, as they've done conversions over the years.
You know, like any lobby or movie theater is pretty dark, so you really didn't notice all the stuff until we got in here, and there's a lot of stuff here. I mean, it's amazing. You don't really see it until you actually get up and start looking at it.
The McMenamins hired artists to restore the theater and started pouring beer to help pay for it all. Now, other theaters are following suit.
The people are there to enjoy the movies and to enjoy the architecture, both, which is the way that the building was originally created.
And so it may be that Portland's epic era is getting a second run.
Well, cheers.